dangerous. Falsehoods are being peddled, not just to those on this side, but more even on this side and those outside. So I understand the need for you to say, my clients would like to clear their names because they've been mentioned in these proceedings. But let us come back to the proceedings. The pain of social media, the pain of affidavits aside. What do you want this court to do with the information you've given us? So we have had your side of the story. We've had Mr. Chibukati's side. We've had Cherera's side and our colleagues. What do you tell the court to do in the context of this judgment, in the context of the issues for determination? What do we do with the matters you place before us? And while you are at it, you also mentioned Section 83. Perhaps you could also say something about Regulation 87.3. Perhaps since you appear for the Attorney General, and for the first time you're not appearing as amicus but as a respondent, could you say something about Regulation 87.3 and the question I posed to Mr. Noroji? It would be helpful for us if you could hear you on that question.
Of this case that we have to engage,
I believe those are my. Mr. Mahat, I may have missed this, but I still want to clear my mind. This is a question I posed to Mr. Murgora as well.
And we'll be hoping to persuade you that the case before you,
the format initially is JPEG.
Full of sound and fury, but
at what point exactly does it convert to PDF?
Lastly, we came closer home.
Forget the CSV story. I guess Mr. Mulgore dropped that. I just want to understand for myself.
And tragedy.
At what point
you've taken the image,
you've asked all the questions, very good questions you've asked, the system has asked you the question.
And many of you, my lords and ladies, who have read
PDF? I thank you all very much. Thank you.
It is a work in which people are invited to believe every allegation, however spurious, however
thank you, Judge President. My questions will go to Professor Muigai. As we've been asked by a number of parties that they've asked us to settle the law around Article 138.3 and 10.
In which, if you're told the sun rises in the north,
submissions, you suggested that the term commission can be used in multiple senses.
Who do you believe?
How do we know which sense will be applied when?
All these people,
as a former Attorney General,
with stories
perhaps
and
you can point out to us whether it is in regulations, it is in the law, but how do we know which sense is applied when? My second question goes to the history of independent commission, transparency, and to do away with the issue of one person having power. But from the narrative that we are hearing here in the court, there appears to be an all-powerful chair who so what is a check for this all-powerful chair if the commissioners have nothing to do with his role? What would happen if the chair was to announce the wrong results completely, or if he was mentally incapacitated or sick, or worst case scenario dead, who then would announce the results?
Have actually been doctored to fit into the narrative of the fiction.
And what is the role of the other commissioners? I think this is bothering me, especially because it seems to me that your client and the IEBC suggest that the chairperson works with the CEO, and I feel a bit concerned. The CEO is not vetted by Parliament. He is appointed, but he seems to wield immense powers over and above the other commissioners. I cannot imagine that could have been the intention of the drafters of the Constitution. So what role do these commissioners actually do?
For 6 days and 6 nights.
It hasn't come clearly. Or, for example, if one commissioner says he's in charge of ICT, what does that mean? Does it mean he's in charge of ICT until the presidential election, then he's not? What does it mean? What is the role of these commissioners? And I'm asking this question more towards
they announced most of them.
Trying to understand the leadership and the management in the commission as opposed to the management of the presidential election. Because I think they're two separate issues, and I'm trying to figure out whether this is a Chebukati problem Is it a leadership problem? Is it a commissioner's problem? What's this problem we're seeing? I'm trying to understand that, and I'd like to hear that from you. Thank you. One more question, sorry. When the results come for other elections, so you have returning officers for senator, for governor, for MCA, and they're all announced or declared locally at the polling station constituency county. How is that information transmitted to the public? And when that information is transmitted to the public through a gazette notice, are the commissioners involved?
If you do your math,
or is it the CEO only?
Or is it the chairperson only?
Who is involved in the declaration or the transmission of declaration publicly of those results? Thank you.
34A per second in the span of 8 minutes that he claims we staged, damped, and altered
Justice.
over 11,000 from 34A.
My first question.
A question was asked yesterday,
I think could be addressed by
how do you allow
Mr.
when
Karori.
you change a Form 34A?
In the
And I
morning
will
you
invite
did
you
really argue
to
quite
note from the
strongly
structure of that form
that when it comes to
that
verification,
most of the data comes
tallying and
pre-printed.
declaration of
The name
result,
of the polling station is
presidential
pre-printed,
election
the serial number.
results,
So the only things
that
you
really,
will alter
if you
on
look
that
at the
form
law, in
are
your
actually the things
interpretation
written
of
by
the
hand, either by the
Article
presiding
138
officer or by
and
the
the
agent
jurisprudence that
or the
say
deputy
emanates from this
presiding
court,
officer. Three
you
classes
seem to
of people.
be
In
arguing
the event
that
there
that
are
is
4 agents, we are talking
that is
handwritings
strictly
of
within
about
the
7
purview
people. And you're being
of
told
the
the Honorable
chair's
William Ruto has the
mandate.
capacity to
and
intercept
that really
these forms,
these other
11,000
commissioners,
of them in 8 minutes,
let's say
and alter them.
the remaining,
It is
the
in the
6
realm
commissioners,
of
these
fiction.
other commissioners,
And I suggest perhaps
let's say the
politicians should
remaining,
stick
the 6 commissioners,
politics
really ought not to
leave
be around
fiction.
that,
What?
because that's a role
Or are you going to
preserved for the
believe, my
chair.
lady, when you're told
And-
the Honorable William Ruto had this
But then
young
you
man
said,
with a laptop,
according to the statute
National
that
Tallying
establishes
Center,
this commission, the
and
enabling
this is the
statute,
laptop he was using
the
to
roles
do
and
these
functions
for
of the
that
commission
staging
or commission
and whatever.
are stated.
I think we may have
one
our
of
own
them is
views about
oversight.
various citizens, my lady and my lord.
What is oversight?
But I am struggling to understand
In
who is
fact, the
this
commissioners,
fraudster
I would have thought that
that would walk
one
with
of
a
the most
laptop,
important
not in
oversight
some
roles
remote
in the
place,
commissioner's life
some inaccessible
would
place where all he
be
has
when they
the
are
network, but he
overseeing
goes
the
to the
verification
National
and
Tallying
tally
Center
of the
with a
presidential
laptop,
election results
and the only reason
at
he
the
has that
center
laptop is to
before the
intercept
same is
results
then
in the full glare
declared on behalf and for,
of our
but
TV
for the people
cameras,
of yesterday,
by
I
the
think
chair,
you
in
were
the
here,
full glare of all those security
instead
men and
of
women that are in that
perhaps
center.
playing
the
this role of
UI
some
of
of
all the
them
agents, it is
allocated
simply
welfare scenarios, protocol, and media. But what is oversight? What would they be oversighting over? That's the question. In other words, at what point in these corporate entity scenario does the chair then disengage from the other commissioners, be they 2 or be they 5 or 6? When do you say this is chair qua chair
and
this is chair as part of the commission? Because we need to understand that. We've been asked to provide clarity.
Which are the polling stations in which these interceptions,
let's go to Mahat.
and dumping occurred.
Mahat, there is this story about this Venezuelan. And one of the issues is whether
even if you
the technology system employed or deployed was penetrated. And you did tell us,
even if
again,
you are
quite
as benevolent as for the
that there was no
Christmas,
such penetration
the verdict
or infiltration
is
or
that
intrusion,
this case before you
whichever.
is a story full
But
of
you
sound
did also
and fury, but which signifies
concede
nothing.
that this
The
Venezuelan,
case before
whatever
you
his
is
name
much ado about
is,
nothing, and
had
you must
access
tell the petitioner.
to the server.
This is not the Supreme Court
But your
of the
answer was
Republic
that
of
the contract
Sadiq.
between the
Supreme Court of the
IBC
Republic
and
It is to be
Smartmatic
expected.
was to supply and maintenance. So if I understood you correctly, these Venezuelans was accessing the server as part of the maintenance.
Of the Supreme Court.
What is this maintenance? What does it entail? What was he doing there? Say he was released and locked out
of the
just before the election.
Which cannot
so what was he maintaining in that system?
Even by the most
Maybe you just want to tell us what maintenance entails as part of that contract agreement. Then back to the question of percentages again in terms of the turnout. I think I asked this question, I asked Mr. Orengo, but now that you may not have another, you may also want to address it. In the arguments that have been presented before us,
I see the ground now, my lady,
Mr.
my London friend, Melissa Ngania,
first mentioned a 65.4% turnout. And then he did indicate that that was bound to change as results kept streaming in, especially if you took into consideration the number of those who had voted manually and the numbers that had yet to come in from the elders. Now, it is the petitioner's argument that if there was to be any change at all, then that percentage would have to increase rather than decrease. So I don't know. And how relevant, again, is this turnout to the determination of whether a candidate gathered 50% plus one vote?
My name is Kisima for the first respondent.
And then, you see, we have been asked by Mr. Ngatia, who do you believe among these two protagonists? Who do you believe? This question has been put to us, and believe you me, we will have to deal with it. Who do we believe? Now, the question of the National Security Advisory Council. This, I think, Mr. Oraro, this could be of interest to you. On the one hand, you are telling us that this personnel visited the premises at the Bomas to express their concern. Because, of course, being an advisory council, they must have arrived at a conclusion that unless results were released, then there was bound to be chaos. But on the other hand, the chair, in his affidavit, tells the court that the only reason the AG, or I mean not the AG, but the individuals, distinguished people for whom we have a lot of respect, paid that visit, was to tell the chair to somehow re-engineer the results in favor of one of the candidates. Now, this is not a question to you, but a question to Mr. Chepkati's counsel. Professor, you may want to, or even Mr. Karori, are we to assume that by the time Mr. Kinyo placed this call, if the intention was to influence the declaration of the results, to change it, to re-engineer it, are we to assume that by the time that call was placed, and by the time these gentlemen paid this visit, they already knew the results? Because there's no way they would have been on that mission if they had not known the results. So are we to assume that if, in fact, if this be their mission, are we to assume that they already knew the results? Okay. Then finally, Mr. Kilokumi, you know, you cited King Solomon. And this court treats Holy Scriptures very seriously. You came up with, you say there is victory. Because in King Solomon's story, the protagonists were distinguished mothers. But here, you called them two gentlemen.
And in the presence of
but I also remember
all over the world,
that one of the mothers who turned out, or the mother claimants, who according to Solomonic wisdom could not have been the mother, is the one who was saying, cut the baby. But the other one, I remember, said, no, let her take the baby. Because what she was interested in is to preserve the baby. Would you be willing to advise? I rest my case.
Okay. Thank you, Honorable CJ and President of the Court. I just have one inquiry, one question for the respondents, and it may go to, actually it may be answered by either the counsel, senior counsel Gidu Muigai and his team for the first and second respondents, or it could also be taken up at the same time by counsel for the ninth respondent. That is the team of the team of senior counsel Fred Gatia. It's my understanding that one of the submissions and cases in response by the first and second respondents, on the one hand, and the ninth respondent, that is the President-elect, are placing the blame the blame on the events of the 9th at the Tarling Center, bombers of Kenya. That the two groups of parties are placing the blame on the first and second petitioners' agents and sympathizers and supporters during the tallying and verification. Of course, we have images. Some of us, many of us were not there. At least the bench was not there. But we have images which we saw on TV. We cannot say anything about what exactly happened. But we just know there was commotion, and the people are throwing chairs and even perhaps attempts to harm each other. But we cannot say anything about it ourselves as a bench. Neither were those matters before us in these proceedings. No evidence or allegations, the affidavits. We have seen the affidavits, seen the submissions. But no actually determination or delving into any evidence. So, and yet there is a request, a suggestion that we should attribute and apportion blame among we should place the blame on some parties, particularly the petitioners, because of their agents, supporters. And therefore, actually, you expect, particularly, I can see the submissions of the ninth respondent, and even I saw the affidavit of Professor Gulia, where he actually says he expects action to be taken to investigate those criminal election offenses. So I just wanted to inquire that would you expect, having had such elaborate submissions and affidavits, would you still expect us to make a determination, apportion blame, attribute blame, yet really the matter is not before us? Neither are we witnesses, neither were we at the bombers, neither were these matters had on merit before us. That's the question I would like you to think about and reflect, and when you come back, you will tell us whether you expect any release from us on that aspect. Thank you.
On Article 249, 2A of the Constitution.
Thank you, Judge President. My clarifications will be sought from the team led by Professor Gidu Muigai, Senior Counsel.
Direction or control.
The first clarification I seek is as follows.
In our humble view,
as regards the
and negative interference,
requirements of Article 140 And just remaining within Article 140.
Heads of very sensitive institutions.
And even considering that the 4 new commissioners only arrived in, was it September last year?
Even that in itself is illegal and unconstitutional.
And whatever it is they've been doing on a day-to-day basis,
the context we have laid,
please should clarify in my mind, because it's a major issue here,
Chief Justice,
what the constitutional role of the 6 commissioners is under Article 140.
There are 3.
And once you tell us what it is,
principles that
just position their role against that of the staff of the Secretariat
should be
and of the chair.
One is the principle that no election shall be
to the same team, and that is as per Article 138,
because of errors, informalities,
3C,
or illegalities,
to the same team,
or no bearing to the process.
Of course,
the results.
Numbers are critical.
This principle,
they are, for me, they
Chief
are.
Justice, judges of the Supreme Court.
Because that is a mandate this of 138.
As a dual for more than
and B,
years,
the threshold, the 50% plus 1.
Ballot Act of 1872, section.
And numbers are important for as long as they are not negated by any other process.
In election,
and numbers would point to a good election, a good result, if they are not affected by anything else.
Not on the rest.
And if Article 138
has been cited
A and B
in
are
one
not
of the
enough,
authorities we have relied in and already highlighted,
deriving from them, this court in 2017
the case of John Mahama
told us that
the Electoral Commission,
although numbers were very, very important,
2021,
other things could affect the numbers.
This is specific to Kenya.
Now, here is my concern.
And the minor care
with the
decision.
fact of the numbers being undisputed, they are important.
Is the true locus for the free exercise of the voters' will?
Kindly comment on whether or not this question flows from the first one.
And the latest pseudo petitioner.
The walking away of the 4 commissioners.
I clearly thought that we are listening to another
to go and hold, was it an IBC meeting at Serena?
Despite the assurances,
or was the IBC meeting at Bomas? But please comment on the walking away of the 4 commissioners.
What are the specific principles in the interest
almost at the same time as the chair was about to declare the results?
1.
And in fact, I recall, because I was glued on TV
and
myself,
what I intend to demonstrate with these specific principles
among their first words were that we have done an excellent job
issue number 5 is in the affirmative.
As concerns
that yes,
this election. But the results that the chairman is about to release
in compliance with
his results.
And 138.
So please comment for my benefit that working out.
The verification and tallying
and
happened
how was it timed? You've got to know, because these are your clients, that they would be walking out of the Bomas to Serena
the agents of the presidential candidates.
Allow all media houses, in fact, except for the violence that occurred at Bomas,
paragraphs 18 to 20,
the split screens of media houses would have been showing each one of them addressing us, the Kenyan voter, at the same time. In fact, at one moment there, I thought the team at Serena would give us their numbers, and the team at Bomas was going to give us their own numbers. So my concern is, does their walking out mean anything under Article 140? If it does, what is it? If it doesn't, why not?
That are eventually done, not by commissioners, but by both the permanent and temporary.
Still on numbers. Still on numbers.
At the constituency returning.
And answering our, all of us, yours and our issue number 4 and 5.
And I dare say even
we were told, and I need clarity on this one because it cuts across two main issues, that the turnout, the voter turnout, was affected by the postponed election. Now, this is my concern. On the 9th, we were voting for 6 people, 6 officers. And we actually voted for 6 officers, including in the places where elections were postponed. And we were told that turnout was affected by the postponement. And since you are the central player in this thing, you could pass this to Mahat or anybody else in your team. Did the postponement affect only the vote of the president? And since we are in the habit of taking judicial notice, and since I am in a position to take judicial notice of the fact that elections have since happened in the postponed areas, have the subsequent elections returned a different result as to turnout? Because that happened, was it Monday? And we have yet to write a judgment. If they are affected, in what respect? Mr. Mahat, you told us that there is a holy place. You called it a sanctified place for the agents. And that it is the responsibility of parties to have agents. Your sister, while submitting, Ngania, told us that in 2017, we also emphasized the position of the agent. This is my question flowing from that. And it goes to the process of the election. What if there were no agents? The Article 81, I think 81E, places the burden of ensuring that we have a fair, free, transparent, accountable, and all those things, election, where, for whatever reason, agents are not present at an election. Is it not the role of the IEBC to ensure that Article 81E is upheld? And in the event, I know you said in Tiati, some constituency there, in fact, there were no agents from anyone. The process, and where there are no agents, the process. Finally, we have seen somebody named the 4 commissioners as respondents. One of these petitions, or some of them, named them as respondents. I think someone had even named them as interested parties or something like that during interlocutories. But by whatever name called, they remain commissioners. I have also seen, we have seen, affidavits that they have sworn, which tend to show that they take certain positions. Now, what is the position to be taken by a commissioner? Is it a position of the party, any party, or is it the neutral position of the IEBC? And when they take, as I think they have done in this case, the position of any side, what is the court to do? Did I say finally? Then I'll say the second finally. That Kenyua's call, Mr. Joseph Kenyua's call, and whatever else that happened, the night meetings, the security issues, and so on and so forth. The name of this commission starts with the letter I, which says, I stands for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. And in the body of 88 going down is that, and even in their act, they shall not be directed in the manner in which they do their work. But I want you to clarify in my mind, because it's now an issue here, when it comes to writing the judgment, what do you want me to write? There are commissioners, and we talked about the dysfunctionality. It came from you, it didn't come from this side of the bench. Of the commission, I'm glad today I have had an attempt at answering my question yesterday as to when it became dysfunctional, but I'm still waiting for answers from the person to whom the question was directed, which is the petitioners. But tell me what the IEBC was supposed to do. On the one hand, they are being told, hurry up and announce. On the other hand, the court, as represented by the Honorable Mr. Justice Isaac Lenaola, is saying, but there is still time. There is yet another day before you can announce what is the IEBC to do. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, President.
Thank you, colleagues, for those questions. I think they were quite comprehensive. The team led by Professor Gabe Muigai, you can see what we want to understand is this disconnect arising from IEBC. Because when we look at Article 88, the role of IEBC is to supervise and conduct elections. I do not want to repeat this question. Why the chairman deemed it fit to allocate commissioners, I think what has been described as domestic chores, leaving the core business of IEBC to the CEO to supervise. We've been told that they did a good job in the polling stations. Polling went on well, counting, tallying, and transmission until the National Tallying Center, where they are all there, but they are not doing the core business according to the Constitution, they have been given other duties. This is bringing a lot of questions in our minds. Then when we look at Article 138, 3C, we see they have a law, at least to look at the current results and ask questions whether the president-elect met the constitutional threshold before the chairman can go and announce the results, because we all understand nobody can tinker with the forms 34As and B the way they have come. And you have heard IMBC being likened to the Supreme Court, much to the chagrin of the judges here, because the question which was being asked, I think, by Mr. Otieno is that if 7 people are sitting on a judgment or a decision and there is a dissenting voice, why didn't the chairman tell Kenyans exactly what happened? That we conducted this election, we came to the National Tallying Center, we have these results, but some of the colleagues have a dissenting voice. They will tell Kenyans why they are dissenting. Another thing that worries us, and I think your team should answer, is why the live streaming of the results stopped. Because if Kenyans were able to follow the streaming from the beginning to the end, which was being done in the spirit of accountability and stability and transparency, then the rhyme which we were being told of the pige ponki would not arise, because there would have been no confusion. We know this is how things are happening, and therefore maybe the losing candidate who is being called to go to the National Tallying Center can decide not to go, because they know already the results they are on the screen. So I would also like a clarification. The question has been asked, and it was demonstrated very ably by Mr. Mahat. I would really like to follow his presentation because he did it with the passion. Mr. Kirago Kemani also did it, but I think I want you, Mr. Mahat, to, just demonstrate how the forms 34A that were attached to the affidavits of the respondents were photoshopped. I think I liked your language of photoshopping, and I could follow it, but I want to understand exactly how they were photoshopped. I think that is what I would like to ask. Thank you. Oh, one more.
Thank you, CJ. Sorry, I don't know whether it has been, but time without number, the issue of the 27 constituencies whose results, it is said, had not been included in the final tally before the announcement was made, keeps coming up. We have been told that in fact, these 27 constituency results have been verified and tallied. But because of the commotion, somehow they would not be part of the announcement. But why did the chair, just before, when calm was restored, why would he not have included them? Because they had already been verified and tallied. Or did not include in the final so that they shouldn't be here bothering us? Why was it, where was the hurry this time? And already the results had been tallied and verified. Thank you, CJ.
Sorry, I just forgot a quick question, Professor Muigai, regarding my questions on Article 138. What is the implication of what you are suggesting on the chairpersons of other commissions? And I say chairperson, I noticed today everyone's talking about chairman. The correct term is chairperson.
Senior Counsel, I think myself that, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, that the most important day for a commissioner of the IEBC has got to be that time that they are doing the presidential election, and I think there is a reason why their term is 6 years, because our elections are every 5 years. So that, I think it's likely that in the 6 years, or whatever time one gets in, a commissioner would have to conduct an election, a general election. Let's not just say presidential, but a general election. Therefore, what is the role of the commissioner, the 7 commissioners? Back to my question number 1, and strictly under Article 140 for me, and 138, 3C. Thank you.
My lady, my lords, we thank you for those very incisive questions. My team has requested me to very humbly request you to give us time, because you place much weight on those issues. We would equally want to come back, not with off-the-cuff remarks, but with well-thought-out responses that can help you appreciate the issues you've raised. And I think that that would put us in parity with our colleagues, because you raised questions with them yesterday. They've had 24 hours. I think they are still mulling over them. In their case, I think there were more difficult questions. If you would very kindly allow us to respond tomorrow morning, we assure you we will not take more than the time you will allocate us. And this is particularly for Mr. Mahat, our numbers expert, because he would like again to have something to demonstrate to the court on the screen. Thank you.
Yes, we are consulting because we did not want to give you a second bite of the cherry. You know you have no right to reply as respondents. But we have asked these questions on the tailhead. The hour is also late, but you know we are operating under very, very strict timelines because of the extraordinary circumstances of this matter. We have agreed to allow you to respond in the morning, considering that if you put your minds together, you'll be faster in the response than if we do it now. So we will give you 15 minutes tomorrow morning to respond, first thing tomorrow morning, to respond to those questions.
Milady, we don't want to sound ungrateful. We welcome the change you have made and thank the court, but we would request 30 minutes. And we will try our best, although you've asked these questions of many of us, we will try to have, at the very most, 2 people speak to it. 1 person to the law and 1 person to the numbers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes. Yes. Thank you very much. I think that brings us to the end of today's proceedings. We will share in the course of this evening the report from the discovery or the scrutiny that went on. And then the order of business tomorrow, we will start with the team of Professor Githu Muigai responding to those questions. And then we will hear the rebuttal by the petitioners. And thereafter, we will give the parties who are participating in the scrutiny. That is the first petitioner, I think Youth Advocacy, CARIF, then IBC, and the first respondent to comment on the report on scrutiny. We'll give each 15 minutes, because we are trying to see how we can bring these proceedings to an end, at least by midday tomorrow, so that for us we can retreat to our chambers to work, to do the biggest job that has fallen on our hands, to come up with a judgment by Monday. So we will continue to ask you to bear with us and be very kind to us. Thank you very much. Have a very nice evening.
All right, that now concluding day 2 of the hearings of the presidential election petition at the Supreme Court. Wrapping up just some minutes to 6:30 this evening. This was a process that began at 9 in the morning. Hearing, of course, the respondents making their submissions from the IEBC to President-elect William Ruto, and, of course, the AG as well. We did hear from the Chief Justice, who explained that the report bearing the findings of the scrutiny and retallying of ballot papers from 15 polling stations. That happened yesterday at Forodha House. That will be shared this evening. And of course, the parties involved will give their responses tomorrow. They have been given 15 minutes for that. And tomorrow, day 3, will also mark the day for rejoinder by the petitioners as well. These proceedings will be kicking off at 9 a.m. in the morning as the 7-judge bench once again hears the submissions from the petitioners, as well as the responses from the respondents who were fielded questions by all of the judges this evening in relation to their submissions earlier in the day. So quite a busy day in terms of responses to the report on the retallying and scrutiny of the ballot papers, as well as the rejoinder by the petitioners coming in tomorrow morning. And this, of course, has been an extremely busy day, as I said, hearing from the team representing the President-elect, William Ruto, that involved Katwa Kigen, Fred Ngatia, and, of course, Kithure Kindiki, as well as lawyer George Oraro, who took the floor for Attorney General Paul Kihara Kariuki. And earlier in the day, we heard from the IEBC team of lawyers led by Professor Githu Muigai. All right, and we leave our coverage of the presidential election petition here, and we'll be back bright and early tomorrow morning to follow the proceedings right there at the Supreme Court. I'm Victoria Rubadiri. We'll return you back to normal programming.